No matter what the Justin Trudeau gang of misfit liberals say or do, there is no undoing what's already happened. And the narrative is already paved. Trudeau needs to resign. That's no longer a small fringe minority opinion. It's the mainstream media saying that to Justin Trudeau. You got reporters that are saying it right to his face. You have interviews that are happening with other backbencher MPs on the Liberal side with mainstream media, and they are saying the same thing, that Justin Trudeau needs to resign, and that's just the narrative, and it's going to carry until Justin Trudeau resigns, because it was now the epicenter of wokeism and liberalism that got taken out, right? The Toronto St. Paul by-election was the hub. Now that that's gone, you're only going to see a tidal wave of political changes across the country, or as the Liberals like to say, from coast to coast to coast. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And once you are subscribed, I would super appreciate it if you guys just hit that little bell notification so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. YouTube does this really weird thing where they don't send out notifications to the people who are subscribed. So yeah, just a little way to stick it to them, I suppose, by enabling their own features. We have a lot to cover in this video. You got Liberal MPs that are going on interviews with the mainstream media, and they are being destroyed right to their face. And then you got, other Liberal MPs, Mark Miller, the immigration MP, who is throwing a bit of a tantrum on the air. And then you also have mainstream media saying literally Trudeau is done. It's over for Justin Trudeau. It's not one of my headlines. It's not one of my thumbnails. Go figure. And then you also have the presidential debates happening later today, in case you weren't in the loop on that. And it just so happens to fall on Thursdays, which is the days that I am streaming now, right? So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 5 p.m.-ish Pacific, 8 p.m.-ish Eastern. But because of the presidential debate, I may bump that to 6 o'clock when the debate starts. But we'll have to wait and see. Just make sure you go to the channel and you hit that thumbnail that's going to show that it's a live stream, so you can be notified of it later. And without further ado, let's get into it. So let's take a look at the polls. You got the Conservatives sitting at 209 projected seats with a bottom line of 179, top end of 230. It still hasn't updated. I just like to check because that's my addiction, right? 338. It's just that's just what I do. I just absolutely love to see this big blue number right here. And you're going to see the Liberals, you're guaranteed them, you're going to see them drop way below 70. I even suspect they're going to drop below 60. I think they're going to be at 58, 59. And you have the Conservatives sitting at 99% likely to win most seats and 99% likely for a majority government. So everything on that front is looking awesome. And right now, at the start of the video, we're going to hit the ground running because the news only gets awesomer. So you have this tweet here from Canada Proud. If the Toronto Star says it's over for Trudeau, you know he's done. Toronto Star posted an article saying Trudeau's political career is over. He can walk away with dignity now or stick around to get creamed by a man he loathes. That's a very interesting choice of wording, Toronto Star, but it is in fact a real article. It all matches up. So Trudeau's political staff and other trusted advisors need to step in and have a frank conversation. It is the time to say the things that need to be said, not say the things the boss wants to hear. And this is coming from the Toronto Star, which is a huge turn of events. I mean, the Toronto Star, for crying out loud, is a liberal microphone. It's Trudeau's almost his own personal microphone. Their bias has been just absurd, and they have not acknowledged any of Trudeau's wrongdoings, and they just turn a blind eye to any of them that have recently happened, and now they're saying it's over. Maybe they caught one of my thumbnails where I've said it's over one too many times, someone may argue, but now it seems like it actually is over. So the chances are you're going to see that thumbnail and title a little bit more. All right, let's continue here. If Trudeau's life were a country music song, now would be the point in the proceedings where he's all sad and lonesome, watching his girl dance with another man. This is a real article, folks. This is on the Toronto Star. What a way to word things. That's because Pierre Poilievre, Donald Trump's clone, are you kidding me? According to the all right-thinking liberals, has just swooped into downtown Toronto, the Big Smoke Liberal Party HQ, and done stole his woman. Did a YouTuber write this? I didn't know the Toronto Star was like comedic. I thought the Toronto Star was supposed to be a serious, albeit a liberal media outlet, but yeah, this is kind of funny. You can particularly hear the pedal steel guitar lick accompanying the Prime Minister's tears to the floor. At least the Prime Minister should be sad because what's happened is bad, catastrophically bad. Toronto Maple Leafs in spring bad. If Toronto is now a fertile conservative ground, not much of anything liberal will be growing come the next election. Holy crap, that was absolutely savage. I mean, I'll be honest, I've never really paid that much attention to the Toronto Star. I think when I was a teenager, like younger than a teenager, like 12 or whatever it was, 13, 14 years old, I think I delivered the Toronto Star newspapers door to door, or I sold them, or one of the above. That's the extent of my knowledge for the Toronto Star. Like, it starts and ends there. I don't think I've ever read the paper, especially now that I live out on the West Coast, or at least in BC. So that's awesome. I kind of like it, and I hate it because I know it's a liberal media outlet, and because I like it, part of me wants to read it more, but maybe that's their entire shtick, is they reel you in with that, even though deep down they support liberals. So we're gonna have to wait and see how that kind of pans out and what other headlines look in the future. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that. Next up, we have a montage here of Trudeau's failures. Oh wait, no, it's just Trudeau's life unraveling.
This was obviously not the result we wanted, but I want to be clear that I hear people's concerns and frustrations. These are not easy times, and it's clear that I and my entire Liberal team have much more work to do to deliver tangible, real progress that Canadians across the country can see and feel. We'll never stop working and fighting to make sure that people have what they need to get through these tough times. My focus is on your success, and that's where it's going to stay.
The Prime Minister is focused on delivering for Canada and Canadians. Our whole government is focused on delivering for Canada and Canadians. That's what we're going to continue to do. The result in St. Paul's is certainly disappointing. We knew it was going to be a hard fight. I think it's especially disappointing because so many of us know Leslie. We know how hard she and her team worked. And I do also want to congratulate Don Stewart. He and his team worked hard as well. We know that these are hard times for Canadians. We know that we have to work hard to earn back their trust. And we know that the way to do that is by delivering for them.
Yeah, you see, that's what she says, but no one believes her, because she then comes out with it, since she's made that press release and said, yeah, no, we need to keep investing in social programs, and climate change is of the utmost importance, and we need to, do more with the carbon tax. So they're just not getting it. We're in a time where money is not valued at where it should be, and the cost of living is insane. And you have bajillions of cries for help coming from Canada, and they're not listening at all. And finally, it's a bit of a wake-up call. It's that little boop on the nose that they needed, but instead of a boop on the nose, it was the entire foundation of their federal party collapsing, which, again, I can't help but smile. I have no empathy for it at all. Let's take a look at another video here of CTV's analysis of this by-election and what it means moving forward.
Big Conservative Party win in a by-election this week has put pressure on the Prime Minister. While the vote won't change the balance of power in Ottawa, it was viewed as a key test for Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. CTV's Judy Trinh has more on the fallout.
So over here. At this meeting of the country's environment ministers, conservation is on the agenda, but it's the preservation of power that dominates questions.
I know enough about politics that one should be careful by drawing direct links between a by-election and a general election.
The Liberals are on shaky ground after a Toronto stronghold was breached by a Conservative win. Behind the scenes, at least 4 Liberal MPs have told CTV News Justin Trudeau should step down. But the public message is different.
I think he's the best place to beat Pierre Poilievre, who, as I've said publicly, is a fake. He doesn't present any concrete vision of Canada that I support. It's a guy full of slogans.
Pierre Poilievre's messages are resonating, especially the promise to get rid of the carbon tax if elected. But Liberal strategists say changing the party's key climate policy won't help.
Justin Trudeau's put his whole reputation around the carbon tax, about taking action on fighting carbon and climate change. And so I think were they to back off on that, they look like hypocrites.
The New Democrats are also struggling to stop the Conservative momentum. They only got 10% of the votes in the Toronto-St. Paul's by-election, in a riding they hold provincially.
Then Liberals and Conservatives rewrote the rules.
To boost support, the NDP are spending money on national ads.
For the first time in almost a decade, we will be going into this campaign debt-free. We've been debt-free for a while now, so we're building up a war chest.
Right now, the NDP are propping up the minority government. The confidence agreement to support the Liberals expires in June 2025. An election has to be held by fall of next year. So, John, not a lot of time to win over voters seeking change.
No, and in order for the NDP and Jagmeet Singh to have any voice and any sort of recognition in Parliament, he's going to have to do either a public deal with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives or a backdoor deal. And I don't see how, even if all of the other parties teamed up against the Conservatives, people are so fed up with the nonsense, and they're just not normal people. It doesn't matter on paper how their policies work if the person presenting it is full of shit, like Jagmeet, like Freeland, like Trudeau, like pretty much all of the Liberals. We're going to see that. You can't just get on camera and gaslight your entire viewers and your audience and Canadian citizens, right, in the millions, and expect there to be no repercussions. Like, we're able to think about things. We're able to have critical thinking capabilities. They just didn't realize that, I think. It just went over their head. And now it's all falling apart, and I can't help but smile when I think about these things. But I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments about this. Is there any possibility of Jagmeet teaming up with Pierre Poilievre, or is that, you think, something that would never happen? Next up, we have Mark Holland, who gives a bit of a speech here about free contraceptives, and he's trying to win you over by using the word freedom, which is not something the Liberal government has really been saying since 2022, other than when they want to create divisiveness and or gaslight you.
Making sure that women have access to the contraceptive medicines that they need, it's really about freedom and autonomy. I think it's a declaration as a society that free and universal contraception means that we prioritize the sexual health and well-being of women in our country. I also think it means that you give real choice to women. Because what we're seeing all too often is people say, I'm anti-abortion. Okay, you're against choice. But then how could you also be against free contraception? Then frankly, you're against a woman having any control over her body at all. And I think we need to call that out.
See, this message, this idea, this topic could be a little bit more well received if it wasn't a gaslighting guy delivering it. And to be honest, this entire discussion has been settled in the past, and it just creates massive divisiveness, and it's the only thing that the Liberals have to hold on to. But we're going to segue out of that, and we're going to take a look at that same MP getting absolutely destroyed by a reporter here, or I guess a news anchor during an interview.
They were examined on Monday in Toronto, St. Paul. Well, I mean, look, the walls of Fortress.
What did they do?
They won Toronto, St. Paul's. They breached Fortress Toronto. Like, that matters, though, Minister. That matters.
I mean, come on. What did they do? What did the Conservatives do? They came in and they said everything that's wrong in the world. No, because people are upset for sure, and then it's in a by-election where there is no consequences to flipping a seat. And right now, who's happy about the world? Like, it's tough out there. I don't care. You go to any country. I don't care where you go. These are difficult times. People are frustrated with that. So, yeah, congratulations to the Conservatives. They got people to agree that the world is tough right now.
They were examined on Monday.
See, they're just not getting it. That's not how you win people over. You don't just blow past one of the most devastating things in many generations. Our economy is at an all-time low spot. Our people, our citizens are pissed in numbers that we've never seen before, and everybody is calling for the resignation of our Prime Minister, so much so that your literal epicenter, the foundation of liberalism, a riding that you guys have had for 30 years, got flipped under Justin Trudeau because, well, that's just his own reputation and legacy. So it's not something to just scoff at. It's not something to just go, oh, that doesn't mean anything, because it absolutely does. It's not me saying it. It's not even you saying it. It's the mainstream media. It's the political analysts. It's everybody is saying it, and they're just in absolute denial of it. And I want to pass the question off to you. It may not be a seat changing riding, right? But I personally think that it has massive impact, and you're going to see the opinion polls really reflect that in the next few days when they update. But I want to know what you guys think about it down below in the comments. Is this a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Let me know. Next up, we have former Premier Kathleen Wynne, who is giving Justin Trudeau advice on whether or not he should resign. And I'll save us the time because I don't particularly want to read again through a Toronto Star article. You're more than welcome to go take a look at it yourself. But essentially, the article is saying that no, Kathleen Wynne didn't resign. She stuck it out and fought for her place, even though she had lost several ridings. And that's the advice that she's giving Justin Trudeau, which begs the question, and this is where Canada finds itself between a rock and a hard place. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, because if Justin Trudeau does resign, right, Trudeau steps out tomorrow, wow, it's actually over, and that's fantastic. Canadians are going to celebrate. We're going to go and buy overpriced beer, and anything we do is going to be overpriced, but nonetheless, we're going to celebrate. What happens next? Well, someone else gets in. Who? Anybody, literally anybody, is better suited than Justin Trudeau. Freeland would do a better job. I hate to admit it. It might only be one extra vote or two extra votes, but still, by definition, she would do a better job than Justin Trudeau. And do we want somebody in now for the next election to replace Trudeau to then be on that ballot, or do we want it to be Justin Trudeau? Because we all know that if Trudeau isn't on the ballot, that whole F Trudeau mentality it just fades away into the abyss. And that's a very dangerous and worrisome place, because if Trudeau does commit to the election and he goes the distance, he's not going to go the distance. Like, he won't get voted on that ballot. People are going to see Trudeau and Pierre and other people, and they're going to vote for anyone but Justin. I mean, this is going to be the worst ever amount of support that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals get. And so there's going to be an analysis that the Liberals are going to be doing. But again, Justin Trudeau is extremely narcissistic, and he's doing everything he can in his power to not resign and to push back against the powers at will. But I do think that eventually it will catch up to him, and he's going to have to make a decision, and it's going to be it's going to have to happen very, very soon. But I do want to go back a little bit to that interview or the comments that Mark Miller had said. This is another clip here from that where he accuses Pierre Poilievre of being a fraud who's imported Donald Trump style politics. Let's take a look.
Global News. On Toronto St. Paul's, as a close friend and colleague of Mr. Trudeau, what would be your advice to him on whether he should stay on as Prime Minister after that defeat and low poll numbers for the Liberals across the country?
Well, first and foremost, my advice as a close friend would not be given publicly. That's for sure. Second, my advice to him as a minister and as a colleague professionally is absolutely to stay on. This is a loss. Let's not minimize the loss. I think a lot of us have to take a step back and give our heads a shake, screw it on a little better, stop the navel gazing and get back on the horse. But the quicker that we can get back on the horse and keep fighting for Canadians, I think the better. The Prime Minister is the person that is the best placed to take the fight to Pierre Poilievre, someone that has a completely different view of what our country looks like and the direction that it's going in. I think quite a negative one. I love my country. I'm going to fight for every inch of it. I believe the Prime Minister is going to do it as well.
Joe Bongiorno.
Right. So that is something that is at the center of this entire discussion. Is Trudeau that best person? And I hate to say it, but without Trudeau, the Liberals are just not popular. Canadian politics, the news, it takes a significant dive because people are tuning in from not just around the world, but people in Canada are very interested in numbers that we've never seen before because of what's happened, because of what Trudeau has done. And if he runs away from all accountability, and if it's not accountability in the form of, a sentence, going to jail or being charged criminally for the crimes that he's committed against Canadians, the accountability would come in the form of losing, like massively losing an election. If he runs away from that, I do believe that everything is just slowly going to fade and go back to a bit of a normal news cycle. And I don't know what that looks like right now, because when people think Canada, they think Justin Trudeau, and screw that guy, right? He's a massive part of our country right now and the conversation. I hate to admit it because it's in a negative light, and I don't want him to be a part of the conversation anymore. I don't want Justin Trudeau to be a topic of conversation, but unfortunately we're stuck with that until the next step takes place, and whatever that does look like. But nonetheless, if Trudeau were to resign tomorrow, a week, a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, what does the political landscape look like? Well, I think it wouldn't fizzle out. Obviously, now we're heading into election season, but I do think that it would lose a lot of its interest and momentum, and I don't know how that would work with the votes. I just know from the amount of people that tune in for Justin Trudeau, right? You have people in America, people in Australia, people in New Zealand, people in Luxembourg watching Question Period, even on my channel, House of Canada, which is linked down below in the description, because they want to see Trudeau get heckled. They want to see Trudeau throw a tantrum and leave. So if that momentum disappears, that's something that has to be considered as well. But let's continue the interview.
Canadian Press. So how can How can the government appeal to voters who support Mr. Poilievre when members of the government, including yourself, have called him things like a snake oil salesman or, as you said earlier, a wrestling manager from the 80s?
Look, I've been quite clear. I think the guy's a fake. We shouldn't focus too much on this guy. I think Canadians are smart, and as I've said, Canadians have pretty good bullshit detectors, and they know when they're being bullshitted. And I trust. You got to trust Canadians. They sent us a message on, earlier yesterday morning, and that's a message that we can't ignore. So, yes, we have someone that is peddling politics that we have not seen in Canada in my lifetime, but I don't think in the history of Canada. He's imported it from the South in his own style, and it works for him. So let it work for him. Let Canadians be the judge. We also have a job to govern over the next year, and that means actually doing the work. Canadians are frustrated with us for their own reasons that have nothing to do with Pierre Poilievre. He's weaponizing that. Let's be clear about that. But let's also talk about visions of Canada. I love my country. I'm going to fight for every inch of it.
And just one more question. So what's your message to fellow Liberals who are talking about a leadership change?
That's a message I'll keep internally.
Yeah, that's the answer of someone who has full confidence in their boss, Justin Trudeau. Are you kidding me? If he supported him, why not just say, I support Trudeau and there is no other hidden message? This guy is, through his attempt of being cryptic, he's showing his cards. So you don't have to say something directly, which the viewers can sense indirectly. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And finally, we're taking a look at this legendary debate that's happening tonight. You got Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You got somebody who can't even stay awake for a speech, who falls while walking up and downstairs. And then you have Donald Trump, who they are trying to put in jail. It's going to be absolutely legendary. And let's just take a quick look here at CTV and what they have to say about this.
All right, let's head south of the border now for that other major political story of the week in Atlanta, Georgia, where U.S. President Joe Biden will take on former U.S. President Donald Trump at the CNN presidential debate. Last time these two faced off 4 years ago, there were plenty of interruptions. There's Joy Malbon, our Washington bureau chief. And Joy, I mean, we remember it. Biden had to step in and say, will you shut up, man? Organizers are hoping this doesn't turn into a circus again. So set the scene for us. What are you hearing from each campaign right now ahead of the debate?
Well, it will be a very different debate. I think Donald Trump interrupted Joe Biden more than 100 times, and finally he had to say, will you just shut up, man? It's going to look more like the 1960s, the Kennedy-Nixon debate. There will only be two men on stage. There will be no advisors on stage. The mics will be muted when the other person is talking. Just the moderators, no advisors, just a paper, pen, and a bottle of water, and that's it. And voters want to hear what their visions, what the candidate's vision for the future of America is. The moderators will kind of steer the ship more or less. But what we've heard so far is that Joe Biden has been hunkered down in Camp David. He's been doing intense mock debates with a podium. Apparently, it's been reported that they've even set up spotlights so that he feels that he is in the spotlight, like on the debate stage. Now, Donald Trump, he's taking a bit of a different approach. He said he sees debate prep as being more like homework in school. He's been meeting with a lot of his advisors, some of his vice presidential picks like Senator J.D. Vance and Senator Marco Rubio to discuss policy, where they can go after Joe Biden and some of his vulnerabilities about the economy, about the border, immigration and crime. So they're taking different approaches, but it will be a very different debate tomorrow night.
And we'll be watching, as will you, CTV's Washington bureau chief, Joy Malbon in Atlanta. Thanks so much for this, Joy. Really appreciate it. And don't forget, we've got full coverage of tomorrow's debate right here on CTV News. Chief political correspondent Vassy Kapelos will be hosting a special edition of Power Play leading
Yeah, so we're going to tune in for that. We're going to be doing a live stream, so make sure you come back to this channel. That's going to be absolutely insane. And I remember watching the last presidential debate between these two, and it was something that was not really ever seen before. And I think today is going to make history. I think it's going to get extremely spicy. And I just want to add that, you know, watching American politics, it's crazy. It's crazy what goes on there. But also, it makes me appreciate the system that we have here in Canada a lot more, such as our parliament, right? And question period, and how you have the leader, the prime minister of the country, who is forced to show up and debate in person multiple times per week, and dozens, hundreds of times throughout the year. And that's something that I know Americans wish they had, especially when it comes to these two right here. So set your reminder for today, or better yet, go click on the link down in the description or the pinned comment below for the scheduled live stream. I look forward to seeing you guys there on your way out. I'd like to encourage you guys one last time to smash like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. We'll see you tonight at the live stream. Bye for now.